Welcome to the Art of the Flying Eye podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be interviewing Amber Bananafish, the owner of Bananafish Tattoo Parlor in New Albany, Indiana. All right, if you don't mind telling us who you are and what you do.
Amber Bananafish. I own Bananafish Tattoo Parlor. I'm a tattoo artist in New Albany, Indiana. I'm originally from all over. I grew up as like an army brat, but I lived in Borden, Indiana for a long time, which is like a beep on the map, not on a lot of maps. But I grew up most of my life in New Albany, and that's why I have a shop there. I love New Albany. But yeah.
So how long have you had your shop?
8 years.
Wow, it's actually been 8 years. Crazy.
Actually, I started out a private studio just myself and then brought on one other artist and slowly expanded. But it was very tiny to begin with. And yeah, now we have 7 artists and a shop manager and an apprentice. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you were in a building, what was that? That was having some like structural issues or something like that before the one that you're in now?
Yeah, it was a very old building, one of the oldest in New Albany. I have a thing for old buildings. I just love architecture and I love the history of New Albany, which is New Albany is actually older than Louisville. But the building itself had some water damage and it flooded in the cellar. And yeah, we just couldn't stay there anymore. I mean, a tattoo shop has to be up to a certain code and
Right.
whatever. And I loved like the exposed brick and the original hardwood floors and stuff, but it just wasn't gonna cut it. So we were lucky enough to find a location for lease right across the street that was huge and used to actually be a church.
Oh, no way. That's weird.
Uh-huh. So, but it also used to be a flooring store, and we had to pull up like 8 layers of flooring.
That's not good. That is never fun.
So, but we ended up going with just like polished concrete, like 3-part epoxy. Ugh, looks like a bowling ball. I love it.
Yeah, it seems like I remember seeing some of the pictures of that. Like, now in Indiana, you all can have an open floor plan, can't you?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, over in Louisville here, that is absolutely a no-go. And I don't understand why. It would make life so much easier, but the have to have partitions.
You gotta have like at least half walls, and in Indiana it does suck that you have to have like a sink per station, even though I mean I think that's kind of silly because you can have access to a sink for like hand washing station, eye washing, like all of that stuff. I think it's kind of unnecessary to do that much plumbing, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of plumbing for a sink in each station. But having that open floor plan, we still have partitions that are portable that we can put up for privacy for each client, each station. But we have 12 foot by 12 foot stations for each artist. The shop is 3,500 square foot of open floor plan. We can like talk to each other, sing together. Sometimes we'll have like a whole Disney chorus going.
Oh, that's the best.
It is. It's really great. I love it.
Yeah, the looks that people give you, like just random customers that they'll give you when any sort of weirdo, like tattoo artists, start singing Disney is just the best thing ever.
That's my favorite though, is like Disney and show tunes. I mean, it's pretty obvious when I have decided the music for the day. It's either like alternative country or like or Disney or show tunes.
No, that's legit. Yeah, I remember
the alternative.
Absolutely. I love that term so much. I mean, I am a banjo player, so
yeah.
I just remember what was it? Working at the last shop that I was at. We would definitely have like Disney sing-offs. Like, have you ever been to the Kentucky Highland Renaissance Festival?
Yeah.
Yeah, so are you familiar with the Disney sing-off that they have in the forest there? We would kind of have our own version of that, and it got so weird.
You say weird, but like, oh my gosh, that is like some of my favorite moments in our shop is like all of us in unison, knowing every single sound, pause, like noise in Gaston's. Yeah, all of it.
And
It's just nostalgic.
half the time it devolved into making up our own lyrics, which were infinitely more gross or obscene. And
We always exchange you with boobs.
really, how does that work?
Anytime a song says you, like, you just say boobs instead. So
I will definitely have to pay attention to that and see if I can do that next time. And I mean, does that work pretty much just generally with all Disney songs?
oh, damn it, Janet, I love boobs. Like,
Oh, there we go.
Horror,
Moving on to Rocky
Yeah.
Horror, another classic.
Show tunes, musicals.
Wait, are we classifying Rocky Horror as show tunes? Is that a thing?
Musicals, yeah.
Fair enough.
Horror is now owned by Disney. Therefore, Frankenfurter is the new Disney princess.
That's perfect. It's perfect. Oh, I love that movie so much. I can't wait to actually go back to live performances of Rocky Horror. It is my favorite thing ever.
There's so many kids that haven't gotten to experience that.
So, I mean, I want to say around here, the only places that do that are Copper and Kings and I think Play. Is that right? I think both of those do. I'm sorry, what was that? I'm having trouble hearing you here.
Uh-oh. That do Rocky Horror?
Yeah. I think there's...
Sure.
Go ahead.
For a bit. Back theaters.
Oh, is Baxter still doing that?
No, I don't know if they ever stopped or like...
Yeah, I know pretty much every place that was doing it stopped because of COVID and all that stuff. I mean...
I don't know if they were still doing it up until COVID, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check into that. I mean, speaking of COVID, how has that all of that affected you all and your shop?
Well, it definitely, it made things very difficult and different for a long time. We were out of work for 3 months. Weren't doing anything. We did, merch and stuff at home. Our clients supported us so hardcore. I cried so much. People were buying like gift certificates for tattoos in advance to like keep us afloat. And
that's awesome.
We were doing art commissions and all that. But even when we got back, I mean, we were in hazmat suits, head to toe, covered, face shields, masks, arm covers, like the whole 9, aprons. Yeah. It's kind of weird, like looking back on it now and thinking like the fear was so real. I mean, I have autoimmune and we had a few people at our shop with like other health conditions, heart conditions, so we were very scared, but I ended up getting COVID at one point. Miranda got COVID. Charlie got COVID. I think that was pretty much it, but we were able to isolate it because we had good protocols in place. We had game plans down that, I mean, I have a lot of clients that are nurses. So I had basically talked to them and asked them like what they were doing in the early days, in the early stages, because let's be honest, the hospitals and whatever, their protocols became very lax later on because they needed them. And they were like, you're not symptomatic, but you have COVID. It's fine. Come to work.
Right. Yeah, it got sketchy there after a little bit.
Yeah, still kind of is. But in the early days, they were very diligent about their protocols, and we followed those guidelines. And it worked really well to where none of our clients ended up catching it. We were able to contain. Like when Gerald and I got COVID, nobody else did. And we ended up getting it twice.
No shit.
It was the first year when it first happened, that October. And then the second year around, it was January, we got it. And we were able to contact trace and figure out pretty much how that happened. But sometimes there's like nothing you can do. I'm pretty sure the first time I got it was like Trader Joe's shopping, getting food supplies for like going out in the middle of the woods. We were going on a camping trip for our anniversary.
Yeah.
Was the one time I didn't hand sanitize before eating a stick of beef jerky.
Oh, damn. Was that stick of beef jerky worth it though?
No.
Yeah, like,
not at all. For the permanent damage to my lungs, and now I can't sing those Disney notes.
So has it seriously left you with like lasting effects?
Oh yeah, like when I love hiking and I love like foraging for mushrooms and like I love singing, like all these things that take lung power and like lung capacity, things that I had no issue doing beforehand. Now I cannot hold a note. I cannot long periods of time. I get so, and it's not out of shape. Like I wheeze. I get so winded that I can't. I'm like a fish out of water. I'm like
crazy.
It's rough.
Yeah, that's gnarly. So I mean, there's still a lot of deniers that I see that either say it's like fake or it's just a cold or whatever. So I mean, what do you think when you see people talking about it like that, knowing that you have lasting effects from it?
One of my best friends also is still on. She has to use a CPAP machine at night. It almost killed her.
Jesus.
Like she was in the hospital for a month, and like watching her go through that, she was one of the first people that I knew or saw to get it, and it was so bad. But we like her lasting effects have been awful. Like we're talking like memory loss and like, I mean, every side effect that you've heard of, almost, I've seen in her.
Damn.
And she's still in physical therapy, like, and she's our age.
Yeah.
My mind, but it blows my mind. But even with like my autoimmune, I even forgot like my joints. Like I have psoriatic arthritis, but it even took a toll on my joints. And it baffles me that like it's like the people that didn't believe the Holocaust happened.
Yeah, that's it blows my mind that there are people that still question that. It's crazy.
There's going to be idiocy.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, so random thing. I actually was doing some cleaning the other day. I ran across your business card from when you were an apprentice.
There's my Jolly Roger business card with the weird mermaid.
Actually, I think it was just mostly just like a solid black card. Yeah, I remember you were coming around to businesses in southern Indiana and handing that out looking for guinea pig pieces. Yeah, so I totally found that the other day.
That's adorable. You know what's weird is like, it's like, whoa, you remember making business cards? You remember having business cards? Like, I don't even do that anymore.
Oh, seriously?
It's so rare. Like, I recently had some business cards made, and I haven't in like 5 years.
No
6
shit.
years. Yeah, only because I don't hand them out. Like, so even when I do conventions, I just make stickers, and they have my Instagram handle. Like, Google a bitch, you know?
Yeah.
His name. Everybody uses Instagram. There's no real reason for business cards. People just throw them away. I had somebody come up to me at a local bar, and they were like, "Oh shit, I know you. I've had your business card in my wallet for X amount of years. You had such a sturdy, thick business card. I use that thing to roll joints."
Well, there you go. I mean, at least you're memorable. At least they remembered you just because of that. You provided them a useful tool.
But at the same time, I'm like, they don't really do much. So I ordered business cards recently because I just made a bunch of prints, and I just stick them in the sleeve for my prints or in my sticker bag, you know, but because it has more information on there. Yeah. But God, it's not really worth it anymore. And it's just like weird how crazy I used to get about making business cards and like, oh God, I got to make a new business card. And oh, I hate that one now. And I
Yeah,
don't know.
so much of that has changed, like so much of that, as far as like advertising methods and like where you're finding people and how. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I remember. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I love that like Russ Abbott's talking about that stuff and doing like informative tutorials for tattoo artists about how to better market yourself and advertise yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it also blows my mind that we used to put our fucking cell phone numbers on our business cards.
Yeah, I stopped that real quick. Like I originally was hesitant, and somebody at the shop when I was just like super new convinced me to give out my number, and that turned bad quick. Especially working in a walk-in shop, like any random motherfucker gets your phone number, they're gonna call you at like 4 a.m, drunk off their ass, wanting to like talk about some shit that they're, one, probably not even gonna remember, and two, they're never gonna get.
Well, you are smarter than me because I had my personal cell phone number on my business cards for like 7+ years.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, it got to a point where I even got a separate prepaid phone just for that, and even that was too much. So, I mean, at this point, I have a Google Voice number that you can text in an emergency, and other than that, don't call me. Just don't call me. Like, email me, send me an Instagram message, something like that. Yeah, don't call.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, but recently have you seen the little like tappy cards, the RFID ones that you can just tap your phone to and it pulls up your website or information? Yeah, I've been making those for myself. You can program these blank cards. They've got a bunch of different shapes, like keychains. I've been giving out keychains to a bunch of my regulars. So if anybody, instead of business cards, instead of having to carry around like a stack of paper, they can just keep this little tag on their keychain. If anybody asks about their sleeve or whatever that I've done on them, all they have to do is just tap their phone to it and it pulls up my website. Yeah, that seems to be working really, really well.
They should like take it one step further and like your regulars, your ride or dies, every time a new person taps their phone to their keychain, how many times that's happened.
I've considered that, having like a rewards program or something like that. If you get a certain number of people that tap through yours, then you get like a discount on your next tattoo, or like a print or stickers or something.
Like almost like GoFundMe does like those, or Kickstarter does like those kickbacks,
Yeah.
You get free merch, or what is it? Oh my God. Gee. What's that stupid thing? The artist thing.
The artist thing online. I'm confused. I mean, not that happens often.
Where you pay a subscription. You pay a subscription to be part of their like fan following thing, and the people send out the merch and things, and then they do the live things.
Like Patreon?
Patreon.
Yeah. We actually have a Patreon for the podcast here. Yeah, it's super useful. We don't do a lot of like giveaways and rewards and all that stuff yet, like physical things, but I don't know, a lot of people just like to support for a couple dollars a month. So it's an interesting thing to have.
As people support and you get bigger and gain traction, there will probably be merch and other things to like rewards.
Yeah, like I've considered restructuring mine to have like a super high tier where like you get a custom print, like an exclusive print every single month, that like nobody else has access to. But yeah, I've had way more stuff to worry about than that recently.
It would also motivate you to like churning out new shit, whatever.
Which I've been bad about. I don't know, since COVID. I've been just real lazy about keeping my shit together. Like actually staying on creating new work. Is that
lazy?
What's that?
See?
I'm still having some issues hearing you with the microphone there.
You are allowed to be lazy.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it feels unproductive though. Like,
well, yeah, we're like, we come from that generation of like, if you're not ticking the boxes and doing all the things that you're supposed to do, then we're worthless pieces of shit.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Shane, it's not true, Shane. We've like now in this new age of like mental health, and we're starting to learn and get this information that we were all lied to.
Yeah. There's so much of that. Like, what do you find is the I guess the thing that stands out most to you that you were lied about in that vein?
Okay. So much. So for like years, especially as a business owner, it was ingrained in that like you're gonna work 72 plus hour weeks and you're gonna use it while you can, and you're gonna work yourself to the bone, because as a tattoo artist, you use it before you lose it, because there is no retirement plan. Yep. And you gotta squirrel that shit away. So when your back gives out or your eyes give out, like you've got a nest egg or whatever. But the thing is that our job, so much goes into it that is so mentally taxing, not just physically taxing, but like, especially being a part-time therapist for your clients. And
yeah,
like, I don't take on new clients very often at all. So all of my clients are basically like family. So I'm sitting there listening to all of their problems, all of their heartache and turmoil, and I'm a sponge and I'm taking it on. I need to decompress from that. So it takes me so long to build up to my day. Right. And then spending a long day with those clients, and then I have to decompress. But like, I feel like I was lied to so much when I was told that there's this standard, and I worked myself to death for so many years and thought I kept a much higher standard for myself than I did anyone else, but I still had a very high standard for everyone around me. And I just didn't understand when other people couldn't do the same things.
Right.
And I also just didn't understand, like, didn't think that it was okay, or I thought that was the standard, was that whole like taking time for yourself, or like I don't even want to say rewarding yourself, but like taking the space or whatever you need to be okay. That was selfish, you know?
Yeah.
It's not fucking selfish. Like, sometimes you have to take care of you first to be able to take care of everyone else. And that sounds so simple, but like, until you feel it.
Right. When you're told,
you believe it.
When you're told the opposite for so long, it just gets drilled into your brain. And I mean, you almost feel bad, or at least at points, you almost feel bad for just taking like a rest day, like just sitting down, kind of relaxing for a little bit. Like, it feels like you're doing something wrong. As a woman too, like being raised a woman by a single mother and having at one point 8 siblings, like, wow. Well, seven siblings. There were 8 of us living in a 2-bedroom house, and one woman taking care of all of us, breaking herself mentally, physically, everything, sacrificing her own happiness, her own needs, everything. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Right. The standard. And if I do anything less than that, who am I? Who am I to complain or say anything? Right. So, like, mentality of, this is what you do. This is what you sacrifice for those that you love. And if you don't do that, you don't love them. Yep. That's bullshit. Yeah, absolutely. It 100% is. And there's a lot of that sort of attitude just kind of baked into tattooing, or at least there was when, I guess around the same time that we started. We started sort of around the same time. When did you actually start tattooing? So I started my apprenticeship, I think it was 2007. Okay. Yeah. It was 2007, somewhere around there. I have a dollar somewhere with the date. Yeah. The signature of the first person I tattooed. So. Well, no, it feels like it would have to be slightly before that, because I graduated from mine in 2008. And I came in after you.
and a half apprenticeship, so it might have been 2006.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, either way, like around that era, it seems like there was a lot of that sort of I don't want to say like machismo. It's just that you have to work yourself to the bone. You have to be this. You have to be that. Otherwise, you're not a real tattoo artist. Like that sort of attitude.
You haven't earned it, and like that pride of like that whole. I mean, there was like a point where I held on to that, and I was very proud of like. I only slept 4 hours a night. I was a full-time art school student. I was full-time barista at a coffee shop. And like, I also apprenticed full-time at the shop and was there open and close and slept 4 hours a night and almost died. Like, I had stomach ulcers and like mental breakdowns, and like, that's not okay. And that's not healthy. And that's why I think it's really important to break that cycle.
Right.
You know, that was, I mean, even not even in the tattoo industry, but like the mentality of like what my mother taught me and how what I thought I had to be from her example, it's not right. And I realize that now. And it's like, I'm take that time for myself. I also, the people who work in my shop and the people that I apprentice, things like that, is like, I want to stress that like, take that time, take care of yourself first, whatever it takes, because you're not going to give a good product. You're not going to be a good tattooer. You're not going to be good for anyone in your life if you're not doing what you need to do for yourself.
Right.
And how to support you in that.
Yeah, like it was so so strange, just the difference in shop culture when I moved from the tattoo shop that I was at previously to Blackheart, where I am now. And just as soon as I got there, like I was having kind of a tired day. I didn't sleep very well. Something, I just didn't feel very well one day. And the boss man was just like, "Well, go home." I was just, what do you mean? What do you mean go home? Like, go home. Like, take a rest day, take a mental health day, chill out, watch some movies, eat some ice cream, whatever. Just go home. And I was like, what? Why would I do that? I'm supposed to be here like all day. Like between these hours, I'm supposed to be here. He's like, no, you're not. Just go home. Take care of yourself. And I thought it was just the weirdest thing. It just felt strange.
Almost like guilty. Is my video frozen to you or?
No, you're coming through fine.
It froze my hand, but it's all good. That same that it don't fault anybody either for like the places that I worked before, the experiences I had at other shops that didn't have that mentality. I don't fault anybody for that either. We just didn't know.
Right.
And I don't want to sound cheesy or like a broken record or anything. Like, we've heard it before, but it really was a different time. A lot of this information just wasn't out, and like people weren't taking interest in mental health back then at all. Now this is readily available information with the internet. The first shop I fucking worked at, we didn't even have the internet.
Yeah.
That was a new thing. Like, Instagram wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a thing. Like, we didn't have readily available information. So now that you can go on fucking TikTok and almost self-diagnose yourself.
Yeah, seriously.
Saying that that's a great thing. Like, sure, that's valid, you know, going on the internet and seeing like, oh shit, I relate to that. It's always good to get an actual licensed professional about things.
But just having that sort of access, that huge amount of access to other people and their experiences.
You're going to learn and grow from that. And lots of people can't afford health insurance and can't afford to go see a mental health professional. But being able to talk about these things and change and grow together and learn from these mistakes of like experiences that we've had in the past, things that we've seen done wrong, or being able to validate that hurt or the thing and felt by being like, oh shit, you know, that wasn't my fault, or fuck, that wasn't right, or that was bad, or I understand why that person did that now, because hurt people, you know, and it's all okay.
Yeah, it's definitely just having access to that many more people, more experiences, and like you said, having that sort of validation that other people are going through like the same thing or similar things, I think is really important. Like I know
like this podcast is great. Like that's one thing I love about having podcasts like this, because we're in such a niche world and industry that not many people can talk about or relate to, as well as like I listen to like Fireside tattoo podcasts. God, there needs to be more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand more people don't. The technology is super accessible compared to what it was. I mean, even just a couple of years ago. But yeah, like just the weird holdovers in tattooing from like those old school attitudes, like you have to break yourself to be a real tattoo artist, is just, I think a lot of it's changing, just maybe not fast enough for my liking. I mean, you were talking about like breaking yourself to like squirrel away a nest egg for like when you finally do shit out, like your hands fuck up or like your back or your eyes, or because I mean I think a lot of people outside of the tattoo industry don't understand how physically taxing it is.
That's why tattoos cost so fucking much.
Part of it, yeah. And I mean, I joke about it a lot that the tattoo artist retirement plan is just die. Because I mean, a lot of you see so many people, they get to the end of their career, and I mean, even beyond where they probably shouldn't be tattooing anymore, and they definitely shouldn't have to be tattooing anymore. Like their work's kind of suffering because at a certain point you're just kind of on the decline. But they have to keep going because they don't have any other choice. And
they don't have any other skill set or education or like backup plan. And it's like, we should be able to retire with dignity.
Right.
And with, just with, I don't want to say a cushion, with security.
Right. We shouldn't have to rely on the charity of other people in the tattoo industry or like a fucking GoFundMe to not be homeless at the end of your career.
For like hospital bills, or if something happens, you know, like that's the other thing, is it's so hard to be insured and to pay for health insurance and stuff as a tattooer. That is something that not to keep dropping his name, but Russ Abbott again is doing tutorials about and is trying to educate people in the tattoo industry about retirement plans and how to set those things up for, as a shop owner, I really of this kind of stuff. I'm actually going to like ExplorerCon coming up in Fort Wayne because I want to learn about this stuff for the people in my shop. I want to be able to provide more security.
Right.
I do tutorials with the people at my shop about taxes.
Yeah.
Once or twice a year we get together and I give them like all the information that I've learned in 15 years of tattooing. Yeah. How to do your taxes, how to do it right, how to not get audited, you know, how to save and how to protect yourself.
Right.
That matters. That's the stuff that really counts, because if you don't learn that early on, then you're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully that was something that that my mentor really kind of stressed and was really, really good about. But of course, like seeing other artists, I mean, even in our area being really close, seeing other artists getting audited multiple times is just, it's super scary. I mean, what they were going through with like frozen bank accounts and just like having to rely, like not having any other source of money, having to rely on everybody else to help them for like the 6 months that their bank account was frozen while they got investigated is, yeah, it's super scary.
Should be like, going back to retirement, there are so many ways that like such a resourceful group of people as tattooers, just by trade, by personality, like attributes that this industry instills in you, certain qualities, you know, just by doing what we do. And when you've spent a lifetime in this industry, there's ways to apply our skill sets, even when your eyesight is going, even when arthritis kicks in or whatever, that we can apply those skills to a different profession or some way to keep doing what is rewarding and what we love, and having a legacy and still having some connection to the public or whatever.
Yeah.
That'll keep us going and still be able to like retire. And there are options, we just have to be smart about it and we have to plan ahead.
Right. Which
thing that by trade we're not really great at.
Right. Like most tattooers are just worried about getting the next person in the door so that you can pay your bills like next week and get a meal tomorrow, that sort of thing. So
I feel like sometimes my neurodivergency is a bit of a superpower in those senses, like where I have to be very scheduled and constructed with everything in my life. And that's where like the sloppy, messy artist that's disorganized meets the structured, like autistic, everything must be this way. And it's like, yes, I can run a business. I can do a thing.
Yeah. I mean, as far as running a business, being a tattooer, like, I don't know. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was super young, but
but I have ADHD also.
Yeah. Providing your own structure is, I have a feeling that the majority of the people in the tattoo and piercing industry are neurodivergent, just across the board, the vast majority. Otherwise, you don't end up in this sort of like fringe subculture without having something like that going on. But providing your own structure is a massive bitch sometimes.
Yeah. I like to consider, so something I say to a lot of colleagues and people that I work with is I try to make it a positive thing. And I'm like, game, recognize game. Especially when referring to that neurodivergency or talking about having bipolar disorder or, any of that stuff. It's about figuring out healthy coping mechanisms and how to turn that into something you can use in your favor.
Right.
And having that support system where we all work together to share that information and be like, well, I kind of figured out this life hack, and this is kind of what I do when I have to draw up all these appointments and I keep getting distracted by this or that, or, we share that information and we help each other. And it's fucking awesome when you have a team that you can do that together. Oh my God, it's mind blowing, especially when you have like a lot of the same things and you just get it.
even outside of any one shop, just being able to network between shops and not having that weird animosity between tattooers. Yeah. I mean, there's still some of that. There's probably always going to still be some of that. But I've mentioned it on the podcast on previous episodes before, like just the ability to go out and like interact with other tattooers in a friendly way without them like shooting your windows out or some crazy shit.
Yeah, we were talking about this recently. Like, I mean, it's been a topic of conversation, a big one in the shop recently, because we have two artists, Charlie and Miranda, that are opening their own shop in the same town. And there have been lots of people being like, are you okay with that? Like, is that all right? And I'm just like, of course it's all right. Like, that's the whole point of being a shop owner, having a large shop. When you have 7 people in a shop, like, it's kind of known that like not everybody's going to stay there forever, dude.
Right.
Like, duh. And you should be happy when people use your shop and your platform as a space to grow and learn, and they find a way to like move on to greener pastures, or they find somewhere to go and expand. These are all happy things. Yeah. So our conversation a lot of times lately when talking to other people about this is there is no competition. It is like it's never competition. We all do different things. We all offer something completely different to our clientele. We all have different clientele. We share some clientele, but they go to us for different things.
Mm-hmm.
There is no animosity at all. Like, we all love each other. We have love for each other, and it's a good thing. No reason to like not still be friends and still hang out. Like, we're all still going to go do conventions together after they've opened their shop, and we're not working together.
Yeah.
We're still going to go to ExplorerCon and rent an Airbnb together, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. So when exactly is that coming up? Because do you remember Lindsay from around this area? Lindsay Harper? Or, well, Hicks, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, she went to, I'm pretty sure she went to that a couple years back and came back with like her personal notes and was like letting us all leaf through it. And it was super, super good stuff. But I never can keep track of when that's actually going on to actually go there myself.
So even better. I've been seeing, if you follow Russ Abbott like on social media and stuff, he's been just putting like diagrams, graphs, lots of information for free. I love how like freely he just shares a lot of this stuff.
It's definitely a breath of fresh air.
Like, you can't see my notes. You got to pay for this shit.
Right.
It's like, I want everyone to do well. I want everyone to succeed. There is no competition.
Yeah. The only person you should be competing with is yourself. And I mean, there's that old phrase, a rising tide lifts all ships. Like the better any one of us do and can share that with everybody else, like it just makes the entire craft, the entire industry better.
Goosebumps makes me want to cry. But this is like, I'm passionate about this, like, special interest tattooing. Like, I eat, breathe, live shit tattoos. Like, that's my whole life. And that is, I get so emotional about it. And it's like the one thing that I obsess over and I care about so much. And I want everyone to learn and grow, and like, they don't have to be as obsessed as me. But that like ability to like have these educational things to learn and grow. Let me get my phone out. I'm going to tell you the exact dates. But so they had to move it a couple times because COVID.
Yeah. But
moved it this year to August, and they always do it like on a Monday through Wednesday. Because tattooers. But it's August 14th through the 17th.
August 14th, 17th.
Yeah. Which, I don't know, I think it's 3 days, not 4, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I just blocked out that time in my schedule to go do that. But I'm so excited. Even though I have difficulty like paying attention and focusing and stuff, if I take my meds, I'm good.
Right.
But I love school and I love learning. And I'm going to take all the notes, and I can't fucking wait. Like, we've got this whole plan of like full shop going and going to school. And then afterwards, like coming back to the Airbnb. And I think Gerald, the shop manager, is going to like go with us, and like, he'll cook us food and grill out, and like, we'll eat dinner together and go over our notes. And
yeah, that seems super useful. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of really structured, really sort of structured educational stuff about tattooing, like involving tattooing.
That brings me to something super exciting.
Uh-oh.
So in preparation for this today, I was so excited when you posted that you were looking for people to come on and talk, because there have been a lot of like fun educational things that I've been coming across lately. I have a new apprentice. With Charlie and Miranda leaving, it's really hard to like find people to just hire out the gate.
Oh, and yeah, absolutely.
I have trust issues, and like, we have had very little turnover rate at our shop. I rarely hire anyone. It like just doesn't happen. Right. So I would rather train someone and whatever. But Emily, that I work with, who was once my apprentice, now colleague, coworker, she found this book, and I have bought books on tattooing in the past, like several. and they've all been kind of hit or miss, you know.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, oh, great, you made a book so a scratcher can like do this shit out of their house.
Right. Like the classic Huck Spalding A to Z or whatever.
But okay, but there's a place for that book in my heart because that was the first tattoo book I ever read or had, and I have the original hardback. Like, that shit goes for money now.
But we're not going to act like that's like a legitimate textbook you should really follow 100% of.
No. I still have, like, it's a historical artifact.
Right. It's one of the. It's like when you look back at like old medical text, it's like, and now you drill the hole in the skull to bleed out the ghosts. Like, it's that sort of thing. You're like, well, that's cute.
That is fucking great.
I mean, it's true. There's some sketchy stuff in there.
Shane, different time. You like that? But yeah, there's been like a few other books that like you take it and leave it. And I've had previous apprentices read some of these books that I found, and I go through and I'm like, this is good, this is dumb. But this is the first one I've come in contact with that I am like, holy shit, this is like really good. There's only been a few things in it that I'm like, I took like a class in college about sensation and perception, and there's a lot of that in this where it talks about like the nervous system and how things are connected and the difference like pain receptors, and it also gets down to the chemical makeup of pigments. It is the of Tattooing by Hannah Wolf.
Oh, that's awesome. I think somebody that I was talking to not too long ago mentioned something about that.
I highly recommend this book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Weird. It's got graphs. It's got pictures. It talks about how light, like down to like the basic shit that I learned in art school about like how the eye sees light and
right.
Translates that. Like, but powder-based pigments versus
dyes
everything.
and all that shit.
Yes, it's so good. Like the chemistry is a little hard to get through for me. Yeah, but
it seems
anatomy.
It seems like a lot of the stuff that you, I guess, could pick up over time being around enough people in the tattoo industry and doing your own research. But it is nice having all of that in one place.
Experience, and there are things in here that I didn't know.
Yeah. What would you say is the most surprising one for you?
There's like that I didn't know, and I'm getting tattoo removal right now, and I ask questions while being there. I get laser at their removery, and if you have not checked that place out, you really should. They do a lot of good things for tattoo artists, and if you refer clients there to lighten tattoos, they offer like better pricing and stuff.
Shit.
But I asked a lot of questions and still learned stuff out of this textbook that I did not know. Stuff about pigments and dyes that it broke it down in a way that I could understand.
Yeah.
I have like reading comprehension issues. There's stuff about pooling. There's stuff about, obviously like infections, different skin diseases.
Right.
I'm really happy about that. What else is in here? Just they cite all the sources and like, but yeah, there's a lot of other tattoo artists that had a hand in making this book, but it is best, like, what's the word? I guess of information that I found so far. I went ahead and I think it's like $70, but I bought me a copy. I bought my apprentice a copy. I bought Maya, my last apprentice, a copy that works at the shop.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like we all need, and we're starting a book club.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, with like just the ability and the drive to share information between tattooers, I really think is super important. Like the first time I read to
message anybody else at other shops, but first thing I do is I I just got to start reading this. I'm totally gonna message like Pale Moon and like Dennis and like a few other shops, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever read Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo?
Yes.
Yeah, the first time that I read through that, it totally blew my mind. Just having all of that on paper in front of me, um, everything broken down into little bite-size, understandable chunks for how to construct a tattoo, like how to, and it wasn't stuff like new Huck Spalding, like this is how you set up a station. It was it's basically only going to be useful to someone who already has a start in tattooing, but just having that sort of advanced information, I mean, just like that book there is just, it's crazy. I it seems like there should be more of that. Like, I would very much like to see more technical materials specifically for tattooers and piercers, like actual written materials.
I think that even having that kind of material accessible to people who are already licensed, first and foremost, especially for people who are mentoring others.
Yes, absolutely. Something to, I guess, fill the knowledge gaps that there might be when you're working one-on-one with somebody. Because, I mean, you can't, as much as you try, you can't teach someone everything. Like, you can't remember everything to be able to teach someone everything. So having that sort of like a standardized reference to kind of keep the super important stuff in mind, I think would be really helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, I've over time, I've always had a curriculum and a syllabus when apprenticing, and it has been revamped every single time because, I mean, times change, information changes, we learn new things every year.
Yeah.
It's even then, like, accumulating and collecting all of this information and like keeping track of it, to the point that there is so much. And even when an apprentice is apprenticing for a year and a half, things come up, you know, you learn as you go, and it's situational and circumstantial. Like, oh yeah, I was going to tell you about this thing. Here's this client and this thing is happening. And it just reminded me. But like sometimes shit doesn't come up or they're not there when the thing happens. And it's like, you need to make sure.
Yeah, it's still important to pass that on.
I don't know. I just love how this industry is changing and becoming such a different thing. I remember 15 years ago, you know, being, I used to use the F word, and I don't mean fuck, being like the art F word.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing your own original designs. Why are you doing that? You know, we already have all that shit like traced out for clients, you know, ready to go.
What are you, some kind of art student or something? Yeah, like that was some sort of derogatory thing to, yeah. I remember.
Like asking too many questions, you know, was not a good thing.
Yeah.
For knowledge and like wanting to learn more and having ideas that things could be different, you know, being like, why don't we put our own original artwork on the wall? Like, we don't really use this flash anymore. Like Cherry Creek's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day about that exact thing, like thinking to myself, like as like an early tattooer, like first, second year, I was like, so why can't we do this other thing? Like, why can't we do that? It's like, well, that's just not the way that works. Nobody does that. I'm like, but why couldn't I do that? And you're like, well, that's just not the way it works. You can't do that.
That not in my house.
Right. Yeah. It's just like
that. Like anytime someone that I work with comes to me and says, hey, I have a suggestion or I have an idea, even if I think, you know, my opinion, it's just an opinion, even if I think it's like so off the wall or so out of left field, I always try and taper that response and hear that out. And I'm like, let me sleep on that. Like, thank you so much. Thank you so much for like talking to me about a thing. I remember how scary it was to have ideas and how terrible you have to be to talk about ideas. So, bend a motherfucker.
Yeah, I
for
remember.
even doing that.
I remember specifically in my first couple of years, like looking at like Sumi brush paintings. Excuse me, like uh, the real heavy, kind of streaky brush strokes. And like looking at some of that in some of like the old art books that we had for reference, and thinking like, I wonder if you could do that on skin, because I've never seen anybody do any sort of like a realistic looking brush stroke on skin. Like it seems like if you did it this way and you did this thing, you could probably pull that off. And I remember asking my mentor and a couple other people in the shop, like, so how would you do that? And they're like, oh, you can't do that. Like, well, what do you mean? It's like, oh, it's just not possible. You can't do that. And like now seeing everybody even like using actual paintbrushes, like big 2-inch paintbrushes, dipping it in gentian violet and just painting stencils on people, and then tattooing it as if it were like a realistic streaky brushstroke. Like seeing that now, I was like, I could have done that. I could have done that back in the day, but I was discouraged.
So, you know what's funny? When I was tattooing in a street shop, and we get kanjis one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
I had the hardest time. Saturation used to be my biggest issue.
Yeah.
I could not saturate color or solid black. Now it's like that's my strong suit.
Yeah.
That is what I specialize in, is doing like bold, saturated color and lines. I think that's funny. But it's because it was my Achilles heel that I was like, I'm going to fucking figure this out.
Right.
But kanjis would come in, or tribal, and I'd be like, oh, fuck. When you outline a thing like that and you're trying to get it all the way up to that edge and get it consistent and solid, it's so hard. You think like, especially with like a flat mag, you're like, I got it all the way up there, right? And then you wipe and you're like, oh, fuck, there's
that
gap.
Weird little gap. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with that flat mag, if you try to go too far, then you've got that overhang, and you're like, oh, shit, I colored outside the line.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I guess we're going to make that a little bigger. So I would have the hardest time with those when we did them all the time. Well, one day I was like, I just didn't. What if I just went whoop, 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 and just like brush that shit out at the ends? And I just don't want to do it solid. Convinced the client, used car salesman style, was like, hey, I think this might actually look cooler and like natural, be like a nice fade instead of so blocky.
Yeah.
What if I just do this? And they were like, okay, whatever you think. And I did it. And even though like the blacks weren't saturated and it wasn't a great looking tattoo, let's be honest, when I started tattooing humans, I should not have been tattooing humans. I didn't know what I was doing. My apprenticeship was very different than than the apprenticeships that I've done or that I know other people nowadays. It was very informative. It was, all right, I guess I'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not saturated, but it looked a lot better because it looked like it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing. As long as it looks intentional, it's usually all right. Like
a huge part of our job is like being crafty about shit and figuring out how to make it work. You got to Tim Gunn that shit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like the example that comes to mind is like children's drawings. Like if you just do it like it is on paper, there's a good chance that it's just going to look like some scratcher in a basement somewhere, just like tried to jam that out on somebody. So you have to kind of add that little touch of consistency to it, where it looks intentional, but still it looks like you meant to do it that way. It doesn't just look like a fuck up.
With watercolor tattoos and like any of those abstract kind of things, like you can tell when someone was trying to do a thing but they don't know how to do proper application, or like
right.
It has to look intentional. You meant to put that squiggle there. You
right.
meant for this to be wonky, or for this to be very light and washy and not saturated,
Mm-hmm.
If people test these boundaries and ask these questions, if people are too afraid to test the limits of what is the standard or what we've been taught, it's we're never going to learn anything. It's never going to change. We're going to be doing the same tired ass shit every fucking day.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing original will ever happen.
I'm really excited to see a lot of the stuff that people are doing now, like really ambitious. Well, I mean, different styles and playing with form. I mean, even weird stuff like the Brutal Black Project. Are you familiar with that?
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, just even to the point of just exploring tattooing as like it as more sensation, and like the piece itself is kind of a memento of the experience, that sort of thing.
So I've been a member of the Church of Body Modification since I was 12.
What?
And yeah, so tattooing has always been like a religion for me. Not to get like too deep or too personal, I feel like we could talk a whole other hour about this. But tattooing was actually a healthy coping mechanism put in place for me instead of self-harm.
Yeah.
And it's also just been like, I've always viewed it as a rite of passage. The sensation itself, all of it is just such a huge part of my life, and is something that I believe in and I hold so dear. The mind, body, soul, aspect where all three of those are connected in body modification, in that
Right.
act, in that ritual.
Right.
But the brew thing, I've done a couple sessions with people like that.
Yeah.
And I can't. I don't know if that has to do with like the empathic thing, even though I know someone's wanting that experience, but I just end up hurting so much with them.
Right. Right.
I just can't do it. But me, myself, like I have an entire like blacked out arm, and like it wasn't done like in that like endurance marathon, like make me hurt kind of same situation, but I have so much respect for that, and I can't even imagine, but I think it's amazing. I'm glad that it's happening. I think that people testing the boundaries and the limits and realizing that the only thing you really have control over in this world, in this life, is your physical and mental self.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard for years and years, the only thing that you really have control over are your thoughts and your actions, and everything else you just kind of take as it comes, how you react to things. But
Exactly.
since you see tattooing as that sort of like rite of passage, that ritual almost, how do you feel about the use of stuff like numbing creams?
So I actually use numbing creams now. When I was younger, tattooing, like I needed that sensation. It was, Ed said, it was a therapeutic kind of thing. It was catharsis. A lot of times I would get tattooed. Well, back in the day, people weren't booked out like crazy like they are now.
Right.
It's such a booming industry, so you could book a tattoo appointment like, boom, and it would be with like your favorite artist that was really, really good.
Right.
But I would book a tattoo appointment because I had something monumental or catastrophic going on in my life, and I just couldn't mentally deal with it. And it would be like, okay, I need to focus on something else. I need an outlet. I need to like let this out. And I would get tattooed, and I would be like so focused on that I was going through, the physical pain of it, that it was just like, ooh, like this is happening. I'm letting this all out. And I would be almost feel like a well opening up and just unleashing all this like hurt and angst and whatever. The older I've gotten, though, really angry anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of that, or like, I think there are times that I'm that upset or sorrow, or that I go through these mental struggles, but I've developed healthier coping mechanisms that are different, where I will pour myself into art or work or something that is self-soothing.
Right.
through therapy, I figured out a lot of different healthy coping mechanisms that don't have to do that same realm of what I used to use. And I'm good with that. I do still love it though. I do still love now it's transformed into more of like this ritual and control of like, I have this control over my body and I can change myself. Now it's more plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And it's opened up to more than just tattooing, and feeling like I get to transform myself into this person that I've always wanted to be, not just on the outside, but on the inside too, through mental growth. And now I'm getting to like show that. My whole life I've wanted to look a certain way and interpret who I felt like in here, out here. And now I get to do that.
Right.
I feel like I'm finally getting there. It's going to be a lifelong process. You should never stop learning and growing and changing who you are, because you're never going to be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Numbing creams now just because the pain is not necessary for me. I don't need it. And also, I only have like super fucking painful spots left.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I really don't have a whole lot of tattoos comparatively. Like, for a tattoo artist, I have like almost nothing. What's that?
I didn't have like that many tattoos. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like inside my arm, I've got like the back of my forearm. As far as like upper body stuff, that's it. Well, no, I've got upper arm, and I've got one leg that's got maybe like 60 to 70% coverage, and that is it. So I was thinking about it. By the time I actually get to a point where I can really focus on like putting some work on myself, like some really like big stuff. One, I'm going to be old enough that my pain tolerance is just going to be fucking non-existent. And I'm not looking forward to the sensitive areas like chest, ribs. Like, yeah, it's not good. I should have gotten tattooed. I should have gotten coverage when I was way younger.
Like, a lot of the tattoos that I did get between 18 and 25, I have now either covered or lasered off.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that they were like really, they just weren't done that well. Like, the styles have changed. The products that we use have gotten a lot better. There were a couple that were like really not good decisions, like a dick shark on the back of my leg.
That's incredible. It's incredible.
Like a portrait of Dolly Parton that looks like Stifler's mom.
Ooh, that's iffy.
But I don't know. I use Zensa. We sell it at the shop, and that is like the best numbing cream that I've found so far. It doesn't change the consistency of the skin, which really? A lot of them do. They make it like rubbery and like it doesn't want to like absorb tattoo. Hard to like fucking get it in there, but so Zensa's been great.
So you had a real issue with that? Because I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about numbing creams changing the consistency of the skin. I can't point out a time where I've ever really experienced that myself. Like maybe I've just been lucky, but I haven't run across that.
I've used a lot of brands. I've tried so many, like every brand that I could find. I'm one of those like, I'm a buyer and I'm a trial and error kind of person. So if it's out there, I want to try it.
Right.
And it's only been like 3 or 4 out of the maybe, I want to say like 12 that I've tried. 12 or 13. I don't know. Somewhere around there. But so far, Zensa's been my favorite. And that's the one that we've gotten like the best reviews from clients and stuff, that like 100% everyone that has used it has said that it works really well, and usually for like 2 to 2.5 hours. So by the time we have an outline and some shading done, you can spray with like Vaseline or something. Right. By the way, Vaseline's back.
That's awesome.
Yay!
Yeah,
it's now like $60 though.
I do like having a quote unquote touch up spray in my station for like the end of a tattoo. If I'm doing a huge black and gray piece where I've been layering over and over and over again, I know that shit gets super rough after a while. So I usually like switch about 3/4 of the way through from just using my normal rinse to using that in between to clean everything off, and it seems to help people out quite a bit.
Yeah, I do not like, I do really long sessions and I only like one client a day. So it's like all of my sessions and clients are large pieces, like back pieces, chest pieces, sleeves.
Right.
And you book like an 8-hour session every day. And I mean, it's great. Like sometimes when I get done early at like 5 or 6, but for the most part, I'm trying to get some shit done.
Right.
So if I can tattoo somebody for like that whole day and there's some cream that they can put on beforehand and then halfway through I can spray them and fucking great. And then using like something like Derm Shield at the end to wrap. And then I know that I go hard in the paint in the sense that like it feels not bad when I'm tattooing, but it's a lot.
Right.
It's heavy saturation. It's heavy line work. So it's going to swell. It's going to be angry.
And especially if you're doing that large of a piece, that much coverage at one time, it's just going to compound all that.
It's one thing when like someone like you or Charlie or like somebody who does much lighter like realism or something like that, there's a finesse and like not as much, I feel like not a different type of trauma to the tissue.
Right.
But when you're doing like American traditional, Japanese traditional, like that shit that is like packed the fuck in there wall to wall.
Yep.
It is gonna fucking swell up like a balloon. Your ankle is gonna be a cankle.
Yep.
You need to elevate that shit. Elevate that shit, wrap it in Derm Shield. Do not take that off for a bit.
Yep. Ice it up. It's crazy to me how many people still, tattooers that have been working for years that one, don't use any sort of occlusive bandage like that. I mean, I know some people have can have allergic reactions to some of the adhesives, but tattooers that don't use it and some tattooers that don't even know what it is have never even seen it. People that have been tattooing for 10, 20 years have never seen it. That's crazy to me.
I started using what was Derm originally, and then Sanoderm, but I started using Tegaderm back when I first opened my shop like 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because in playing roller derby, I fucked my knee up really bad and had a huge scab. And I didn't know of anybody who had ever used it on tattoos or anything, but that is how I healed my knee under my knee pad because my scab kept getting caught on my knee pad underneath. I know that's real gross. And it kept ripping off, but Tegaderm like kept it covered. And I was like, man, I bet you do this on a tattoo. And I tried it on myself and started asking around. There's like a female tattooers group that's like thousands of tattooers that we share information.
Awesome.
And yeah, one person dinged back and said that they had heard about it and tried it. And it was soon after like Sanoderm was created and then it blew the fuck up.
Yeah, I remember.
It's a godsend. It's just wonderful.
It really is. It heals up so much better, so much faster. But I ended up like, I don't remember how I initially heard of it, but I remember I was at, I think the Louisville Tattoo Convention one year, like pretty early on after I started tattooing. And I saw it was just like this huge roll in a big, it looked like in an autoclave pouch, just this giant oversized autoclave pouch of Tattoo Derm, which I don't even know if Tattoo Derm is still a company, but it was just this massive roll and it was like $40. And I remember thinking like that was just the most expensive thing ever. I was like, oh my God, I'm spending $40 of my own money on this bandage, but I still kind of want to try it. And the first couple of times that I used it, I remember there was a lot of like hesitance at the shop, like really, I don't know about that crazy stuff, this newfangled technology, plastic. And we ended up using it on this one small tattoo and it healed up so much better that eventually like, everybody in the shop ended up switching to a version of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the allergic reaction thing, like not to like shit talk companies, but the biggest things that I've seen the allergic reaction thing with is like ones that use the harsher adhesives like Sanoderm and Tattoo Derm and yeah, like Derm Shield has been the best so far that I've seen very few reactions
Really?
with people, which I mean, even companies that claim to be hypoallergenic, like, I mean, you could be allergic to anything. You
Right.
can't, I mean, you can't guarantee that no one's going to have an allergic reaction.
Yeah. I mean,
But
there are people that are allergic to water. So, I mean, you can be allergic to
absolutely,
literally anything.
absolutely. But I've seen like very few in the many years I've been using it be have an allergic reaction to Derm Shield. However, Sanoderm has no stretch at all.
Yeah.
You put that shit on a client and they swell up. Like I swell real bad after a tattoo with my autoimmune and just having like skin that I have gained and lost 100-pound increments multiple times. So my shit get real puffy.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it literally lifts your skin up.
Yeah.
Creates like a fucking blister and you go to take that off and it removes your skin.
I have seen that just a couple of times. It's not real often, but enough.
My shit swells like when I tattoo other clients, you know, doing those big pieces that are heavy saturation. I have had clients, especially inner arm and like inner thigh, that thin like baby skin.
Yep. Those are the areas, the exact areas that I've seen it was inner arm, and I think one was behind a knee. So it's still that real kind of like webby, like thin skin.
That shit, I swore that stuff off after I saw that happen to a couple clients and they were in pain and freaking out. And I was like, nope, we're done.
Yeah. Now, I've used a ton of different brands, just kind of testing out which one I like the most. And I will say the initial roll of Tattoo Derm that I got at that convention was probably the stretchiest that I've used, because some of them just don't stretch at all. There was one brand that I got recently, maybe 6 months or so ago. And like when I was applying it to somebody, especially around like a joint, I would have to have them like kind of do all sorts of weird extensions and stuff to like, to stretch, to put the bandage on in a way where their skin was already stretched, as much as it could. Because if I tried to put it on without their skin being stretched, as soon as they moved, it would just pop right off.
Yeah, the Derm Shield is like so stretchy. I love like showing clients like I'll cut a little piece and just be like, "This is stretchy," and like, wah!
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I'll give them like an extra piece just in case it busts a leak or something that they can like patch or whatever. But having it to where like, you know, shoulder caps or like knees where
those are the
need
worst
to like stretch over an area, it will.
Right.
As opposed to those ones that have like the hard backing and you're like.
Yeah. So those areas, I usually end up applying it in like 2-inch wide strips and just kind of like layering and following that sort of contour. That helps me out with that. But yeah, it's a giant pain sometimes.
Oh, tattoos. I love like watching. I try not to be that person when I'm watching someone do a thing and I'm so like, you're wrong.
Like what? What are we talking about here?
There's times that I've been watching like another tattooer like wrap a client and like I have like pet peeves that just like drive me up a fucking wall. Okay. And I have to hold myself back and be like, oh, you nosy bitch. Don't do the thing. Don't interject. Shut your fucking mouth. It's not your business. But especially not in front of a client.
Right, right.
No, but and like someone doesn't shave like all the way around the tattoo and puts the Derm Shield or something like on there, I'm like, that's gonna hurt so bad. And not only that, but it's not gonna make a seal. So right. You're just gonna bust a leak. Pointless.
Yeah, see that's
or when it's not border, you know, like someone puts the Derm Shield on, but it's like the tattoo is here and the shit is like right there.
Yep. And you know that's going to leak. Like there's almost no point in even having it on at that point. Like it says in the instructions, you have to have at least a half an inch. At least a half inch. Yeah, I overlap like crazy around the edges because I don't want leaks. It's just thinking about having like that gross like black slime just dripping out of somebody's bandage. Like if they go shopping after their tattoo or something and just having that just dripping out in public just weirds me out. Like I have to go overboard with it.
I've let regular clients that you've been tattooing a while. Like I know which of my clients get real juicy. I know which ones are the leakers. So I'm going to be like, it is not going to hurt my piggy bank to give you an inch and a half border.
Right.
You deserve it, boo.
So in 2022, that's another one of the things that kind of, speaking of pet peeves, that irritates me is tattooers that are still trying to penny pinch on stuff that ultimately is not really going to cost you all that much. Like using Tegaderm or some similar bandage like that, like Derm Shield. The amount that you're putting on a particular client, like if you're using a lot of it, you're probably doing a big tattoo. And if you're doing that big of a tattoo, you should be charging enough that putting that bandage on it is not going to hurt anything. So it's just weird seeing people like, oh, I don't know, should I spend the extra 2 cents on a razor?
Yeah, so that is a very good point. And that is, so there's been a lot of information shared recently where it has been broken down into like distinct averages of our areas all across the U.S.
Speaking of Russ Abbott.
Yes. Of what your like average is for your area, what you should be charging for tattoos. But there's also another diagram that's been shared that not only it goes one step further, not just the area, but your level of experience. So how many years you've been tattooing, how far booked out you are. There are a lot of other things that go into that criteria. So sure, your area may be on average $150 an hour, but if you've been tattooing for 15 to 20 years, and you're booked a year out, you could stand to raise your price a little bit more. Right.
That's actually a discussion that I've been having on TikTok for the past couple of days, posting videos about that after seeing Russ Abbott's, like the Tattoo Smart breakdown of like the national average and the average per state. And his suggestion for basically everybody to raise their rates at least 10%, like right now, just to account for the inflation recently.
And that's the thing is like, we were talking about how hard this is on your body, preparing for retirement, the overhead, that's something else that it kind of is a pet peeve of mine. I hate that like shops are very secretive about what like booth rent or versus like shop cuts on things, if they do, how they do things.
Right.
I do not like that people are very secretive about that information. There should be no reason why you're afraid to share that information unless you're shameful.
Exactly.
Or you're trying to hide something.
Yeah. But again,
I'm very open about that.
It's that old school mentality of like, you don't let anybody know what you're doing because one, it might bring outsiders in that are going to mess with your business, or some other tattooer is going to come in and like steal your trade secrets.
Someone's going to poach your artist, which, hey man, if you're mistreating your fucking artist, then maybe they deserve to get poached.
Yeah. I mean, hearing about, in my early days, hearing about tattoo shops that were like charging their artists for doing guest spots, for doing conventions, like saying, like, if you work a convention out of state that I'm not paying for at all, have no financial stake in, you still have to pay me 50% of everything that you make at that convention. Like that sort of shit.
Wild.
Yeah. That's a hard no, dog. There's just so much. Well, at least there was a lot of legitimately shady shit going on.
It still goes on. And like just in the last like couple months, when we put out the information that we were hiring a new artist, that we had a spot open, I did interviews and I was appalled. Information. Of course, I would never say names or anything, but y'all motherfuckers should be ashamed.
What are we talking about here? Like, what sort of stuff are we being ashamed about?
Kind of like what you said about the convention thing, like charging artists when they went to do their own conventions, and would make them rep the shop, not themselves, even though they were paying for their own hotel, their own booth, things of that nature. Charging artists overhead, like booth rent, to be at a shop, and then making them buy all their own supplies. I'm not going to get down to like specific numbers of rates, but I'll just say the booth rent was not cheap, and having to buy all of your own supplies on top of that, like, and having no shop manager, like, it's just not worth it. It's like, do you want your people to succeed? Because you're setting them up to fail.
Right.
If you have a successful shop, this is not how you have a successful shop.
I feel like a lot of people, well, I mean, not even just in tattooing, just in general, are really short-sighted. They have that prospect of making a little bit more now, but don't think about that running off their artist, like the person that actually makes them money in the long run.
High turnover rate.
Yep.
Anybody in-house, that is why there's so much turmoil and why there ends up being so much bad blood between those people. It's really hard to friends or whatever when you don't feel like you're being taken care of or like you matter.
Right.
It goes both ways too. Then there are, I've had interviews with people where I'm like, I can also tell the difference, where I'm like, well, you just sound a little ungrateful and like a spoiled brat.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be that too. I mean, tattoo artists are people, and people get weird sometimes.
They do. Everybody's got their own shit that they got to work through and learn and grow on their own time. I'm just not going to be the one to do it for them,
Right. Because I mean, ultimately, you're probably a whole ass adult if you're coming in for a tattoo shop interview. So yeah, at a certain point, you got to cut that shit off and be able to handle your own stuff.
This is kind of related. I was listening to a podcast recently, and I heard one of the best interview questions that I have now adopted in my own line of questioning.
Okay.
That sounds serious and scary. But someone else at the shop was talking about, when interviewing new artists, one of the questions they ask is, how do you go about when a client comes in and discloses that they have HIV or AIDS?
Okay.
Good question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of appalled at how many people stumbled over this question and
really
didn't know how to answer it. Yeah, and people who were like, I'm trying to remember how they answered, but like the answers, but people that were like, oh, well, I double wrap this, and like, oh, I would, I don't know, like wild off the wall shit. But basically, like, I think the best answer she said she had, or what she would have said, was, I would do nothing. I would probably like laugh or say, oh, that's really sweet of you to disclose to me, even though that's absolutely necessary. But I've been training for this my whole life, and that makes absolutely no difference to me. Because
ideally, you should be doing the same, everything the same for everyone, assuming that everyone could have that. So it shouldn't matter to you at all.
Should not matter, and someone should not feel that they have to disclose that information to you. That is their own personal business. They should not feel shamed for that. And if someone acts differently or treats them differently because of their status, that is fucked.
Right. And especially with HIV, like at this point, knowing what we know, HIV is almost, you have to try. Like you have to work to get that. Like it's not just you're going to touch a doorknob and now you have HIV. Hepatitis is scary, but
way more likelihood.
Right. And I'm actually wearing a necklace right now that I got as a gift from 2 people that have Hep C that did exactly the same thing. They travel around, they sell jewelry and all that stuff all over the country, and they went through, I want to say, if I remember right, like 5 or 6 different artists, the last ones that they asked before me, that just straight up said, absolutely not, I will not tattoo you. Because they wanted to come out and be totally open and honest and say, hey, we just want to let you know, just for your safety, if it matters to you, we have hepatitis C and we'd like to get these tattoos. And every single one of them turned them down. And I was just like, well, yeah, like, why wouldn't I tattoo you? Like, I do the same things for everybody, just kind of assuming that everybody has everything, and that way nobody gets anything. Like, it's called universal precautions for a reason.
Yeah, that's so sad. That's so disheartening. Yeah, with the way that treatment and medicine and everything has gone for your viral, even for your viral load to be at the point to be able to transmit, it's just ridiculous. People are just ignorant. Right. That's really what it boils down to. And if you are hiring someone, you definitely don't want someone that fucking ignorant to be working in your shop.
Right.
Or that homophobic, or like whatever it's coming from, you know, prejudice,
because there's a lot of that. There's still a lot of that stigma, like, oh, if you have HIV, you must be one of those people, like that sort of shit. And you're like, no, anybody can have that.
Lingering in the tattoo industry, and it amazes me that it's still there. And I feel like the people who are changing the tattoo industry, or at least trying to, we still have a responsibility to push it out, like, slowly to that, and make sure that people know that it's not okay.
Right.
It's like inaction is still an action.
Yeah.
So if you're some sort of action.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember what the exact quote is. It's something to the effect of, all that it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I am right there with you. Like, I tattooed within the past, I'd say like year and a half, a dude that I know for sure has HIV. But at this point, the medication that he's on, he was telling me that just like 1 pill a day lowers his viral load to such a low level that he's undetectable. Like, if they do a blood test on him, it doesn't even show up. Like, that is where
we're at now. And I don't think that people know that or have access to that information, that is how far modern medicine has come.
Right.
And people still are stuck in the fucking 80s and think that this is like a mass pandemic still. And it's like, no, dog.
Right.
It ain't even really a thing anymore. Like, well, there are people who get access to that medication, and that really fucking sucks.
Right. But I mean, even then, like, as gross as a lot of people can be, playing fast and loose with the possibility of contracting diseases and just being kind of dirty, like, the same person will, like, drop a sucker in the dirt and still eat it, and then in the same breath tell you, no, I don't want to be around that person. They have some sort of disease. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
those COVID memes where it was like talking about, I kind of related to that shit, where it was like, oh, you ratchet assholes are so worried about, like, you be double masking it and like talking about can't wait for my vaccine and blah blah blah, but then you be doing some heinous ass shit. Like, I have done some questionable things in my early years, okay? Like, back when, deep in my alcoholism and like my ratchet hoe days, I have
not gonna judge.
Can only say things because I know better.
Fair enough. Like, perspective. It gives you perspective.
Yes.
Oh my God. I remember something I was gonna mention when we were talking about hourly rates. There was something that the 10% increase. Not to jump too far back in the conversation there, but I was doing some quick math on one of those TikTok videos that I was posting, and I don't know what rate you started at, what hourly rate, but that doesn't sound good. So at the shop that I was at when I started, it was $100 an hour, and doing the conversion from $2008 when I started to 2022, $100 then basically had the buying power of about $130 to $135 now. And it just blows my mind that there are still tattooers that are working at $100 an hour and saying that that's what the standard rate should still be. Like, it just blows my mind.
So I get shit about this all the time. The last tattoo convention I did at Due South Tattoo Convention, a couple of my friends cornered me and had a bit of an intervention.
Uh-oh.
Because I am notorious for like underpricing things.
Yeah.
I've had an issue with this, but like I said previously, a lot of my clientele are almost like family, and sometimes I have some issues with guilt.
It's hard to charge that full price. It really is.
Thing is like, I'm never hurting for money. My bills are paid. Like, I'm happy. I would do this shit for free. I wouldn't even charge for this shit. Like, I'm doing it anyways because I love it. However, when it comes to like the artists that work at my shop, best believe I am advocating for them all day, every day. And I'm like, you need to be charging this, and like that tattoo took this long, and it's not even for the shop, it's for them. I'm like, you are worth this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that tattoo was fucking amazing, and it took you X amount of hours, and it should have, like, that wasn't slow. Like, why did you undercut yourself? Like, don't be afraid to say that. If you're afraid to tell them that price, Gerald will tell them that price when he checks your client out. You just text him that number and he'll be like, that'll be blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah, that would be helpful, having that that outside voice to really kind of hammer that home, because sometimes if you tell somebody something, it's not as important to them as having that third person say it, and then it really seems important.
Official.
Yeah.
Dude, I love having him as a buffer.
Yeah.
It is one of the few shops in the area that have a shop manager, like desk person, that handles the phone calls, like calendars, all that shit, and gets us food. We joke that like, oh, Gerald, you have one job. And that he's like an adult babysitter, whatever. But having that buffer, oh my God, it is wonderful, because I have like I finally understand why like certain people I worked with back in the day seem so grouchy or grumpy or like very low patience, and like I'm gonna just say like my old buddy Rick Harlan. I get it. Now I understand.
Yep.
Because when people come in, like, we keep our door locked still, even after COVID, and we're appointment only. When people try to walk in and they're being weird, and like, I have no patience for it, but Gerald can be a buffer. Right. He can talk to that person, and I can say, just tell them blah, blah, blah. And he'll be like, so, blah, 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 blah. But I'd be like, it's hard on the customer service voice anymore. But I also have like a weird thing when checking out my clients. I have all the love and all the patience for my clients, because they're my people. Right. Strangers, But when checking out my client, until you pass through
that gate where I know you're not a fucking weirdo, yeah.
You gotta be vetted. But Gerald, like, checking out a client, running a card, I'm not gonna ask them if they want to leave a tip. I feel skeevy. I feel gross.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I don't like doing it. But if Gerald checks them out, best believe he's going to be like, how much of a tip did you want to leave?
Ah, there you go. That positive language. Like, it's not, would you like to? It's how much.
Understood that you should be tipping.
Yeah. Tips are one of those things that, like, personally, I don't feel like I need it. Like, if I feel like I need more money, I'm just going to tell you a higher price for the tattoo. I don't feel, I guess, disrespected if somebody doesn't tip me, but it's totally rad if somebody, I mean, hell, even if somebody like brings me food or something. I have
like either bring me taxidermy or like oddities,
that's awesome.
Or like food or gifts, whatever, and that's awesome too. But I, the European way is that tips are absolutely like not really a thing. And it's like crazy if somebody does. But I would say it is rare that anyone at our shop doesn't get tipped.
Yeah.
Like, and we have some heavy tippers. Like, and I don't know if that's because
Always
we're not
appreciated.
charging what we should. That could, but I don't know. Regardless, like, even if a little something, it's like a nod of like, I liked my tattoo.
Right. Yeah, and every once in a while you get that person that like you'll do a 1 hour tattoo for them or something like that. I don't know how you have your stuff structured out, but if they come in for a 1 hour tattoo and I charge them my standard hourly rate, and then they'll just leave like a $300 tip on top of it. It's like, what is this? That's fucking crazy. That's awesome. Yeah, every once in a while you get that magical person.
I had a client one time tip me a tat sole chair.
What?
Yeah. So
Wow.
this client is one of my favorite clients. His name is Doug. I'm sure you wouldn't mind me talking about him. He's a tax agent for like large corporations.
Okay.
And he's half Japanese. And he is like real tall dude, wears like Armani suits and stuff, like very professional. You would never know that he has two half sleeves, like he basically has like a tortoise, like turtle shell, of Japanese
That's cool.
stuff
That's
that
awesome.
I've done. And he's like in his 60s.
That's awesome.
So fucking cool. And he is just like one of the sweetest fucking dudes. He looks intimidating and hard as fuck when you see him.
Yeah.
He's so kind and so sweet, and like we have like had the deepest, most sweet conversations, like deep heartfelt shit.
Yeah.
Like tears, you know. And one of his last sessions, he was like, it was when we were getting ready to move shops, and I was talking about how I needed, we were going to buy a new chair and stuff. And I was like, well, just like wait on it a little bit. We got this and this and this to do. He didn't even tell me. Just went over to Gerald because he knew that I would be like, no, what are you doing? Like, that's
Right.
ridiculous. I would fight him on it. Went over to Gerald and handed him the money. He was like, how much does that usually cost? And Gerald told him, and he was like, buy that chair.
That's awesome. That's so
Holy
rad.
shit. Like, after he left, I fucking texted him and was like, you are fucking insane. What did you do that for?
But that's awesome though. It lets you know that they really give a shit about you.
He was like, don't worry about it. I'm proud of you. I care about you. I support you.
That's awesome.
That dude. But yeah, you were talking about hourly rates. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I get so distracted. When I first started tattooing, we didn't do hourly rates. That was not a thing. Like, I didn't know anybody who did hourly rates. So it was like our minimum was a $40 minimum for the shop.
Same here.
And like when we did start doing hourly rates, I think it was like 75 an hour.
Wow.
Or 80. Yeah. And I did that for like a long time, but I usually didn't even charge an hourly. I would price by the piece.
Right.
And totally undercut myself. It would usually just be like, well, I mean, this is what I'm willing to do it for. This is what it's worth to me.
Gotcha.
You know, either that or my mentor would like guide me on that. She would be like, I'd do it for this, you know, and then I'd usually charge a little bit less because I felt like, you know,
well, I haven't been tattooing as long. Yeah.
So it wasn't until like, I started charging $100 an hour when I was at Prophecy, I think, and I did that for so long. It wasn't until a year ago I went up to 120, maybe 2. And I had been at that for that long, and it wasn't until this past January that I said all new clients, all new projects are at $150 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's because mostly Russ Abbott's thing and having the intervention with my friends and like.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
friends that do like $500 half days, $1,000 or 12 or wait, $600 half days, $1,200 whole days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's tap when you tap kind of thing. You pay for that day. It's whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I've been kind of looking at myself is just how to structure that, because it seems like it would be a lot easier to kind of take care of from a bookkeeping standpoint.
Less stress and less pressure, I guess, because if they just buy that day or that half a day, if you have a client, you know, they can't sit for a whole day, like pain wise or skin wise, then you just do that half a day. And it's like, well, we can do with whatever we want. And you don't have to stress about like, you don't, if that client wants to take more breaks, that's on them.
Right. Yeah, because as it stands,
I get nervous or anxious about like, I want to make the most of their time when they're paying 150 an hour, which there's very few people I'm charging that right now. I
yeah,
still feel weird and guilty about it, even though I think I'm fast. But I'm just like, you gotta get it in. Like, I want to make sure that you feel like this was worth it.
right. Yeah, and it's one of those weird things. I'm bad about like getting to the end of a session and looking at the clock, and I don't charge for like breaks or anything like that. I basically just factor the time that I'm actually like running the machine, that the tattoo is being applied. And
Same.
and I feel like I'm kind of undercutting myself there on that, because it still uses my time if they need to take a bathroom break or if they need to like walk out and take a smoke or whatever. I'm just sitting there not doing anything. I can't do anything for myself. But I'm just not getting paid for that. So a full day, half day model would definitely cover that. But yeah, like
About like how drawing deposits should not come off the price of the tattoo, how those should just pay for that time that you did spend drawing. Because I mean, let's face it, sometimes I spend 6 hours drawing
right,
outside of the actual tattoo time, and I'm not compensated for that
right,
at all. But yeah, the break thing, like I do the same thing you do, where if we take breaks, I'm like, all right, that was 15 minutes. Or that was another 15 minute. Well, we took a 30-minute lunch break in the middle of our whole day session.
yeah,
So I'm calculating all of that and I'm subtracting it at the end.
right. Same here. But yeah, you'll get to the end of a session and you'll do the math and everything comes up. It's like, oh, well, it's $500. And you look at it, and well, at least I do. And I'll look at it and think, that still seems like a lot. They've been getting tattooed by me for a long time. I should really take care of them. Like they're a really good person. Like they like brought me a soda from the store that one time. Let's call it $4.50. Like one of those things. And you just like you said, guilt. You feel guilty for charging them what you know you probably should.
Oh, I do that, and then I'm like, and I really had a fun time doing this anyway. So
right.
I should be paying them.
Right. Yeah, it's such a weird
is
thing.
Like in the background, my husband's in the background, like, shut the fuck up. You know it took this long.
Yeah. And that's also got to be nice to have that voice in the background to kind of like prod you into doing what you know you should. The voice of reason.
It's all right.
Yeah, it really is. It's really difficult to charge, especially somebody that you're kind of friends with. They've got like somebody you've got that rapport with. You've been tattooing them for years. It's really hard to throw that huge number out there.
I have a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
Push-ups, though. There's been a lot of debate about last coat of paint and like finishing touches on tattoos. So I will say that like now later in my career, it is very rare that I ever need to do a touch up. Like something didn't heal right or something fell out or something is light, unless there's been a healing issue where a client admittedly is like, up. I went to the beach
Right.
in the water. I did something real dumb. Then it's like, dude, you fucked this up. You're going to pay for this touch up, you know?
Right. Right.
But like, I rarely do any touch ups. Like, shit just heals the way that it heals, especially with Derm Shield and whatever.
Right.
And it doesn't fade at all, like, especially with pigments these days. But there have been times on like big back pieces or sleeves that I'm like, now, like, we've done 6, 7 sessions to complete this whole piece. I kind of want to go back in and add some more contrast here.
Right. Because you see the difference between the fresh pieces and the older stuff, and it doesn't quite match up. Mm-hmm.
Like a game plan for how you were doing this one section, and you learned something since that other side.
Yep.
And you're like, well, now I want to add that texture over here. Or I got this new ink, and now I want to put that here too. Like, you just know things that would make it better.
Right.
And you're like, one last little session just for bells and whistles. Like, in the past, screwed myself where I've been like, we'll do one last touch-up session and I won't charge you for it.
Right. Same here.
I want to do that. I want it to look pristine.
Right.
And I'm not going to post a fucking picture until it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like,
there's a lot of artists that are saying that that should be a process, and you should start advertising as such or informing your clients.
Yeah. I've known quite a few artists that just sort of factor that into the cost of the whole piece. Like, say you're doing a sleeve, at the very beginning of it, they'll say like, well, if you want to sit through the whole thing in one session or break it up into 2 days, or if you want to do hourly, however they structure their time. And this will have one final, like beauty pass or touch up session or whatever they want to call it at the end of it. And they just let their client know ahead of time that this is what's going to happen. Like, that's just a part of the process. Factor this into your decision making. Like, we're going to need that last session also. And yeah, like I would personally, like you said, if it's something that I want to do, in the past, I've pretty much just said like, no charge, like just come in on this day. I want to just have one last pass over everything. But I don't really know if I should be charging for that. Like, charge a full rate, charge some sort of like half rate, or
is there something like setup fee?
I'll usually charge for supplies on touch-ups on like the hard to heal areas, hands, necks, faces, feet. A lot of times, anything weird. Like if somebody pays me enough money to like tattoo their butthole or something, I'm probably gonna charge a setup fee to touch that up, because it's probably gonna fucking need it. Yeah. One of the artists that I had on a previous episode of the podcast has an entire sheet of flash made specifically for buttholes. That is also the face that I made. Yeah.
I watched someone get their asshole tattooed at Chicago Rosemont Tattoo Convention.
Really?
And news crew showed up. Like, was something. She was.
I think I've seen the video of this.
Yeah.
You were there? It was like a blonde girl.
I don't remember what she looked like at all, but she was drunk as fuck, and she was like face down on the table, holding her fucking butt cheeks open. And I think at one point she fell. Like,
oh my God.
She lost the grip of her ass cheeks, and like the artist was just like, what?
Oh no. So the video that I saw, I mean, this sounds about right. The girl got, I think, her boyfriend's name tattooed around it. And then the same girl at some other point had to get that covered when she broke up. Well, I mean, obviously when she broke up with that boyfriend, because getting a name on you is it's bad luck. And she got that covered and then got the new boyfriend's name tattooed around her butthole.
How many times I've been asked, like back in the day when I did lettering, cover my ex's name with my new boyfriend's name?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I'm like, do you not see the here?
Right. And this is the kind of stuff, or like when I was telling the story on the last episode of the dude that looked like redneck Santa Claus pooping his pants in the shop and just like jangling little nuggets out on the sidewalk outside the shop, just doing laps.
Oh God.
Like, yeah, I mean, I absolutely understand. Like the older tattooers when we were coming into the industry that were just angry, just so angry all the time. I totally get it.
Bullshit. The amount of bullshit.
Yeah.
We should do another one of these episodes sometime if you want to go down memoir lane. And I could tell you some fucking horror stories from working at a tattoo shop, like next to a bus stop near a liquor store, like
Yeah.
street shop stuff.
Yeah.
And also working with a bunch of fucking hard ass dudes. And mentor was a woman, but like, I mean, that you had to ride with the hardest of them if you wanted to fit in and like make it in the business, and that's the way that it was back then. I'm glad it's not the way anymore, but I cut my teeth in that era of like, well, I guess I'm one of the guys.
Yep. I was talking with a friend of mine just the other night about some of the stuff that I look back on that was just totally accepted and normal in the shop. That I was just like, that's fucked up. That's not right. You shouldn't be able to do that and say those things. Like, no. That
was not okay. We like to call that spicy nostalgia.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then I used to wonder, like, why do so many tattoo artists have like drinking and drug problems? Like, I understand now. Like, especially you were saying, I don't know what it is about street shops. Like, some of it just, you see the weirdest shit. It's just so strange. And you try to explain this to, I'm going to say the normals, and they just don't get it. They don't get it. Like, my joke is that you see some stuff and you just, as soon as it's over, you're like, I'm just going to push that down into the pit of my stomach and put some Subway sandwiches on it. Never remember that ever again.
You're like, bruh, oh, happened.
Yeah, it's just easier to forget that ever happened. And then I'll talk to one of the people that I used to work with, and they'll say, hey, you remember that thing at the shop? And I was like, oh, God, I do now. Shit.
It blows my mind, like, how many times I've had, like, some of my oldest friends tell me a story or, like, bring something up, and I'm like, holy shit, I fucking blacked that shit out. Like, I blocked it out completely. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Someone brought up the other day about how they had to, like, come up to the shop because I had 2 clients. I was the only one left at the shop, and back in the day, it was like, when you're the bottom of the totem pole, it's like, you will stay here until no one else is coming in. You will take every walk in.
Yep.
People came in, wanted, it was, oh my God, it was a name though.
Yeah.
It was initials wanted covered with the new girlfriend's name, and getting that covered, they were blitzed out of their fucking minds. Don't know what on, but one of them OD'd in the bathroom.
Oh God.
Not while I was tattooing him, and I was like, look, you got to sit up. Like, you can't keep like doing this number, like, falling down. Like, I can't tattoo you like this. I was 19, I think, at the time, or maybe 20. So I was Eve. I didn't know.
Yep.
But they went to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom. She followed him, and they were snorting shit off the back of the toilet. And I hear a commotion and shit banging around, and then I hear her screaming, and God. She's yelling at him and hitting him because he is OD'd, and she's like, "You're a fucking idiot!" Like, just beating the shit out of him, and I'm like, "What the fuck? I'm by myself. I don't know what to do."
Yep.
It was bad. It was like, my boss is gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was my first thought, was like, I'm going to be in trouble for this.
Yep. Yeah.
And then they tried to pay pills.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. The amount of, God, I forgot about that. The amount of people that come in to just straight up try to like pay you in drugs, or God, we had people try to pay us in like stolen stereo equipment that they had. Like, I mean, it's just loose. The wires are frayed because I just like ripped it out of somebody's car and fucking ran off. But I mean, if you want it, you can do a tattoo for this, right? And I was like, no, I can't.
Like, I need cash money.
Right.
Money, please.
Yeah.
Money,
I mean,
please.
not to say that I won't trade, because I will. I've gotten a bunch of instruments from trading. I've gotten like game systems and books and all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, like stolen stereo equipment, pills, no.
I've gotten like taxidermy from Kathy Crabb. We did a trade.
Oh, that's awesome.
That big kudu in the front of our shop, that's a huge, expensive piece of taxidermy. Hell yeah, I did some trade for that. But like the plumbing at our new shop, like there's definitely been some trade that I'm like, you do a partial trade?
Right.
Good Lord, that's a lot of money.
Yep. Yeah, and it seems like back in the day, I hate saying all this stuff like back in my day. Makes me feel so old. But of course,
we are so old. It's totally fine.
I do have my wizard stripe in my beard now, so I guess I qualify. But yeah, it seems like every shop kept around like its own little like tweaker mascot that would do like all the odd jobs, like all the plumbing and electrical work and like refinishing floors and all that shit for just like a $50 tattoo. Do shops still do that? Like, is that a thing?
Not me.
Yeah, like at our shop, it's like super chill. We don't interact with any of the general public that doesn't like email us to set up an appointment. So
same. It sucks because like where we're at, like where my shop is now, it's like gas station, liquor store, the jail, and the courthouse.
Oh yeah.
The shop, and then the only gay bar in like Southern Indiana.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Which Pride, we love them, but that corner is a lot of foot traffic, and there's a lot of like just gotten out of the drunk tank or like out of jail.
Right.
But there's a serious mental health problem in the area, in Louisville, in New Albany, and wherever. And there's a houseless situation that like no one's handling.
Right.
So, and those two things paired together, like I hate that, and that is something that before we our regulars, our usuals that would pop in, say hi, whatever, we give them some change, conversation and be like, okay, but you can't hang out here, whatever. But
right.
in a weird way, it's a blessing. Like COVID made it to where we have the door locked and we don't even have that anymore. So there were a few moments where shit would get a little weird and like,
right.
Oh, you won't leave, and like now you're hassling the customers and like, oh. But at the same time, like now it's just bad and it sucks. And like I relate to that shit so hard because my mother is like one of those people, is houseless and has mental health issues, and like I it just hits me in the feels. It's very personal for me.
Right.
I'm like, I do about this.
Yeah, I mean, I've done work in the past to kind of support mental health services with some different organizations. We worked before with like some places in Louisville and like some of the like homeless outreach teams. Like in Louisville here, I don't know what's over in Southern Indiana. There's probably some overlap over there, but we've got like groups like South End Street Angel and like Hip Hop Cares, and just groups of people that are going out on their own to sort of like make contact with a lot of these people where they live, find out what they need, and get them what they need. But
backpack stuff, and like we did like a big drive back in the day. Since COVID, though, we haven't done any charity stuff.
Yeah.
We should probably get on that now that things are getting a little better.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're not lying. Like, nobody else is really taking care of that shit. Seems like the city just wants to bulldoze everything and bust them out just so rich folks during the Derby don't have to see them.
See a lot of it, like where we're at, and it's a lot of the same people, and like now we know them. You know, we've been there for a long time, and I'm glad the law enforcement, the police have in our area being a smaller town. They are also familiar, and they don't try and start shit, and
Okay,
they
good.
they just make sure that everybody's safe. So
Cool.
at least there's that.
Over on this side of the river, it seems less hospitable. Yeah, just the city wants to bulldoze where everybody's trying to survive, and it just makes it that much worse. But so, what kind of charitable stuff were you doing with the shop beforehand?
We had like a few different foundations that we had done. We had done like some tattoo events where like we would do a themed flash sheet and then donate to an organization.
That's
that
awesome.
was like the most basic thing where it was just like, here, we can give you money. And it was kind of fun for us too to like advertising, getting new people in the door, getting to do some tattoos and some art. But what I think was like a little bit more helpful in the long run was doing like the backpack thing. I forgot what it's called. You know what I'm talking about, where you like fill the backpack with like feminine hygiene products or just hygiene products.
Right.
Food, snacks, like anything that you need, survival kind of stuff.
Yep.
To where then you can distribute those backpacks.
Yeah.
And then doing clothing drives. That was ridiculous. Or I know you might have seen photos and stuff of the shop, but like the inside area, that big open floor plan, like in that middle where that table is and stuff, we filled the whole fucking area, like almost like 6 foot, maybe more tall of a pile that we had to organize of like, and just the width of it was ridiculous. Just a mountain of shoes,
awesome.
Clothes, blankets, coats, like everything that people just brought in. And that was for the houseless population. But we went through, my friend Alicia Ingram organized that. And that was right before Thanksgiving, before COVID.
Yeah.
Which I want to do that again because that was the biggest response. And I think it was because it was less specific to where it was broad spectrum. People could bring really, as long as it was not bad condition. And
right. Something that's like new.
And I think that was most useful. I was literally, oh God, this is going to make me cry. I was literally driving in downtown Louisville, you know, the overpass. Mm-hmm. And there was this gaudy print blanket that someone had donated, and you could miss it, see it a mile of fucking way. And I saw the fucking leopard print blanket, and that was like that moment. That was that moment that I was just like, it was all worth it.
Right. You actually get to see proof that what you did is helping somebody.
That it went where it was supposed to go, that it wasn't bullshit.
Yeah, it's not some like shady motherfucker that's just like, yeah, it's for charity, and then they're like reselling it on Depop or something.
Heard about shit like that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as I know, like the big white metal like clothing collection bins that are in parking lots all over the cities, apparently those are for profit. Like it's not like charity. You put your clothes in there and then they resell them.
Many like charitable organizations and foundations that we are now finding out are like either anti-gay or torture people or like
just like spending all their money on like on weird legislation, lobbying, and yeah.
or like anti-abortion stuff, or like I don't know. It's just like how are you this day and age if you don't take the time to like research a thing and do your due diligence and I don't know. It just sucks having a conscience.
You're not wrong. You are absolutely not wrong. Yeah, I do a lot of work with the Louisville Oddfellows Lodge, and like
Yeah.
in front of the building, like we do a lot of our stuff on our own, so that there's not any sort of weird confusion. Like if we partner with somebody, we make sure that they are 100% above board before ever doing anything with them. But we actually went so far as during COVID to put out we call it a blessings box, or like a little free pantry. It's like a little box out by the road, kind of like the little take a book, leave a book neighborhood libraries. And you mentioned earlier feminine hygiene products. That is like one of the very most requested things. If anybody's asking for any sort of supplies, is just feminine hygiene products, because nobody donates that. Nobody puts them out.
I think that is one of those things I have some strong opinions about. Just hygiene products, like whether you identify as a woman or you're trans or whatever, but if you are houseless and you do not have access to that should be like a basic human, like why that is fucking rough. Is awful. And there are so many alternatives too. Like they make diva cups that are silicone, like there are just so many ways that our government and us as a people could go about helping in those situations and I mean, it's a health and safety thing too.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was that?
Bio.
Oh yeah, biohazardous material. Yeah. A lot of that stuff gets mishandled, especially by the general public, it seems like. I remember, weirdly, when I was working a gas station job to get through my tattoo apprenticeship, there were so many people that I worked there with worked with there. Words are hard. That had no clue how to safely deal with like cleaning the bathrooms, or like every once in a while somebody would come in just covered in blood, because that's a thing at gas stations apparently. And I feel like there's a lot of crossover between like street shop clients and third shift gas station customers. I don't know what the correlation there is, but it feels right. But yeah, there was this one lady that worked there with me that she would go from cleaning the bathrooms with a washcloth, straight to wiping down the little rollers that they have the hot dogs on. Yeah, I feel like the general public doesn't know how dangerous that stuff can be, I guess. Do you ever get that idea from some of the people that you talk to? They're just kind of gross.
Yeah. It's just like the shit of my nightmares. Like this is the stuff of my nightmares. I have definitely witnessed some atrocities in the past that I'm just like, okay.
I mean, how bad? What are we talking here?
Oh God, I wish I could like, of the depths of my brain, give you some specifics. I have also been like accused of doing some heinous things in my past, but it's usually in reference to like, yeah, that pizza's been sitting there for like 2 days and meh. I'm just gonna eat that. I have like the stomach of a goat, and I have definitely eaten questionable things and done questionable things in that sense. But when it comes to like job, or like, it's almost like a switch flips in my brain.
Yep.
I'm like, this is not about me anymore.
Right.
Someone else is reliant upon me. And there's like a guilt factor, as well as a responsibility factor, as well as like professionalism, like all of the things. Also, I have to set an example.
Yeah.
other people. So
it's like you're okay taking the risk for yourself in some cases, but absolutely not taking that risk for somebody else because they don't have a say in that. You're there to take care of them.
Gerald freaks the fuck out when I have totally barehanded, like, been wiping shit down with Sandy wipes.
What are you doing? Come on now. Like
he's like, you're getting cancer right now.
Yeah, I can't say anything at all. This came up in conversation about 6 months ago. I remember it vividly. That somebody was telling me that they had been dealing with, I want to say it was maticide specifically in a medical setting. And they were just like, yeah, I mean, I use the little maticide and cavicide wipes without gloves. And I know it's really, really bad for you. You're really not supposed to get that on your skin. Like, they'll punish us really bad at the hospital if they see us doing that. And I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, it'll give you cancer. I'm like, hold on. Because I remember all the years that, like, if you would get like a splatter of black, like if you were doing black and gray and it just like misted up your forearm or something like that. And my mentor was just like, oh yeah, just get some of that old school Spectrum HBV, the stuff that like disintegrates plastic, and just wipe your arm down with it. It's fine. Just wipe it down. And so my whole career, like I'm going to get cancer at some point. Like it's going to happen.
So we joke about this sometimes that I deal with like dark, heavy shit with humor. And we joke about the fact that it's fucked up that Gerald got cancer before I did.
What?
I do all kinds of fucked up, terrible things like putting styrofoam in the microwave and like heating up my leftovers and just like eating it. Or like stuff that is not BPA free at all, but like the maticide wipe thing, like I cannot tell you how many times, especially early on in my career, before any of us knew that shit was not okay for you.
Right.
I knew a girl oh, sorry.
I was going to say, like, if you, like, mist something down and, like, a fan blows the overspray into your face, you can definitely taste it. It's in your fucking eyes. And, yeah, never even questioned it.
I knew a tattoo artist once that used to use those to take off her makeup.
Excuse me?
I'm just going to put that out there.
That's uncomfortable. Oh, my God. That's bad.
Makeup wipes.
Cavicide makeup. Oh my God. What? Are you serious?
That bitch gonna be like Cher. She gonna live forever.
Oh my God. Yeah, it does seem it seems like the people that take the sketchiest risks live absolutely forever. And people that are careful
from the inside out.
Yeah, you just pickle yourself with weird substances. Like, look at Keith Richards. That guy, I don't think will ever die. I mean, he might already be dead, just still walking around.
Look, it's going to be me. I'm just filling myself with silicone and filler and Diet Coke.
Yeah, maybe I need to get on that. Maybe I need to start riding that train. Just like switching out all my body parts for synthetic ones so that I can live forever. But I'm going to leave that up to...
Genco.
What's that?
Genco. I'm referencing Repo the Genetic Opera.
I hate that movie. I hate it so much. I really do. I don't know what it is. I've tried watching it. It just, something about it irritates the living shit out of me.
You and my husband both. It's a cult classic.
I understand that it should be, by all metrics, a really good piece of entertainment. But something about it just irritates the living dog shit out of me. And I don't know why. I can't stand it.
Have you watched Devil's Carnival?
I don't think so.
I like that better. It's like the same people who did the other one, but it's like way more Satan. Okay.
All right. So it looks like we have been talking for a good amount of time here. So let's go ahead and bring this to a close. If you could just kind of let everybody know again where you are, where they can find you as far as like Instagram, website, all that stuff.
Amber Bananafish. I own Bananafish Tattoo Parlor in downtown New Albany. The website is bananafishtattooparlor.com, and that's Parlour because we are fancy.
Fancy.
And Amber Bananafish on Instagram.
Awesome. And one last thing, if there were one thing that you would want prospective clients to know before they come to get a tattoo from you, what would that be?
I'm here for an experience. Sure, the product is definitely important, and you can see what I have to offer there, but I feel like what I can offer as far as tattoos go is more about the connection emotionally, mentally. It is an experience as a whole, and it's a bonding experience that we share together. So we kind of vet each other, make sure that we're a good fit.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that's a really important part of the tattoo process, I feel like, is just really kind of making that interpersonal connection with somebody. That's pretty much the reason that I'm also working by appointment only. So you can have that focused one-on-one time to really give your attention to somebody. So I think that's a great thing to let somebody know. But
tattooed by somebody that you hate or you don't get along with.
Right. It's just going to make it a bad experience.
Think about while you look at that tattoo for the rest of your life.
Right. Because all of that's going to be anchored to that image in your head. But yeah,
you want it to feel like it's with a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It was really awesome getting to talk to you. I mean, even though we kind of came up in tattooing around the same time in this roughly the same place. It's been a while since I've seen you, but it was cool having you on. Thank you.
And I loved catching up with you, and this was really fun. I had no idea we would get so lost in conversation.
Right. Yeah, I definitely lost track of time there, but it's totally cool. But yeah, until next time, I will see you all later.